So empathy, if not now, when? The point of this video is that all spiritual practices practice empathizing with the other because that's a way to be compassionate. In fact, it's maybe impossible to be compassionate with a stranger unless you can empathize. How did they get to where they're at? And why not now? Now may be a perfect opportunity to practice empathy and compassion. Well, it's true that our own minds can be a mystery, so the mystery of the other mind may be even greater or more difficult. And in fact, the road more often traveled is one of identification with mind, the thinking mind, that creates categories of us versus them. And then it identifies with us and it believes we're right, they are wrong, and it has absolute certainty in such things. And as I've mentioned, this is a 50,000-year-old program. It's outdated. It's outlived its usefulness. But we see it turned up maximally with things like the recent election here in the U.S. Now, the research, and I'll put a link to a fairly difficult article, but the summary is pretty straightforward, that we do know our own within group minds. But the mind of the other group, the enemy, that's very difficult, if not impossible. We don't know what they're thinking. And so if I'm talking about empathizing, your mind's first reaction may be, I don't want to empathize with this other group. I don't like how they think. Well, the point is, according to the research at least, is you don't know how they think. You only think you know how they think. And the point of the video is, while there may seem to be division all through at least the U.S., if not the world, as Alan Watts put it, underneath all division, secretly is unity. And Alan would often quote a rabbi who put it beautifully. He said, if I am I because you are you, and you are you because I am I, then I am not I and you are not you. Which is to say, while we look very separate on the surface, the truth is, underneath, we complete each other. And this is another reason to practice empathy right now, because when you see this connection, you experience the one-sided nature of the mind program operating in your skull. So the first step of empathy is to experience how the other mind completes us. And of course, this was a lesson from Taoist philosophy, that opposites are connected and define each other. Up defines down, left defines right, and liberal defines conservative, and conservative defines liberal. And when you're playing the game, you may not even know that this is the game in which you're playing. But that's the point of this video, to point this out. And before I would lecture, and I would do this even when I was a professor, I would ask, are you sure you want to let go of suffering? Are you sure, absolutely, that you're ready to end the game? And I would get very interesting answers. The students would often say, I'm addicted to my suffering. I have no interest in letting go. I'm enjoying the ups and downs, the adventure of the game, even though, when I win, it's a thrill, and I'm willing to pay that price for when I lose and it causes suffering. But, and this shows that some of us are dependent on the game. We're dependent on ourselves. We're not ready to let go of we're not ready to let go of the surface level of separation to experience the unity below it. And that's not a moral judgment. That's not an intellectual judgment. It's simply whether or not a person wants to do it or not. And the Neurotic Guide, I put it this way: humans are the only species that is happy when we're suffering, and we suffer when we're happy. And so this abstract world of categories, us versus them, governments, liberal, conservative, all these things that I've talked about as made-up words in my other recent videos, it's an abstract world that many of us choose to live in. We choose, and again, no judgment here. But the point of the video is empathizing with the other, points out the nature of the game. It points out the one-sided nature of the mind and how we are not mind, how the other completes us. And more importantly, this abstract game of us versus them versus the reality of the connection beneath all of these games, that is a choice. And it may be the only real choice that we ever really make.